Hello, and my name is Sean Miller. And welcome to Holy Crap, We're Screwed. No, just check that. Sorry. Welcome to Marlins After Dark. Because, of course, no team keeps you up late at night like the Miami Marlins. I'm joined tonight by Alex Carver, Fish on the Farm. And, well, we're up late talking about a big win tonight. We'll talk about that for a few minutes first before diving into the biggest news for the Marlins, I think, the call-up of the debut of Eury Perez with the Miami Marlins. And then, yes, we'll talk about many injuries and dive into just what the Fish are going to do going forward. Who are some young players that could help out? What are some deals the team might make to try to stay afloat during this stretch? And then we'll try to have a little fun at the end during this still dubious news time for the Miami Marlins. But Alex, how you doing tonight? And thoughts on tonight's big win?
Yeah, good, man. Sean, thanks for having me on. It's always a pleasure to talk this team or baseball of any kind with you. Appreciate that. So, no, good way to start off a series here, right? They get a walk-off home run from Jorge Soler, who's everything they thought he would be when they signed him a year ago and more this year. So he's been a breath of fresh air for Miami so far this season. It's been really good to see him come up in a big spot and propel the Marlins to a win like he did. He's getting used to wearing that home run chain, which is good to see. So, yeah, man, I like this guy. This is exactly what the Marlins thought they were getting. It's good to see him healthy and ripping the ball for the Marlins, which is exactly what they wanted him to do, and he's doing it well. So it's good to see.
Yeah, you said it. I think 1 for 5 tonight, but that one, that's what he's making the big bucks for. If he can do that, 20 more times this year, the Fish have to be thrilled with getting that kind of power in the lineup because it impacts games like the way we saw it tonight. It looked like we're going to have to be talking about losing to the Nationals after losing a series to the Reds. But now it's a win, and the Fish can go forward. They've still got the Nationals. Sometimes you're good, sometimes you're lucky. Sometimes the Washington Nationals come to town, and the Marlins could feast. Good pitching tonight. Luzardo had a second straight quality start in a row. So big game for Jesus. 7 strikeouts, 1 walk. I think that's might be his second best game of the season, at least in terms of command. Other key offensive contributors, DLC and Segura, both had 2 for 4 nights. So any night that Mean Gene gets 2 hits, that's something. And had a other frozen rope to third base at 1.2, where that's his season in a nutshell, hitting it right to a guy. So that was good. But the downside, Peyton Burdick, 1 for 4, 3 strikeouts. But for the most part, you saw the guys that you need to see step up, given all the injuries that they're dealing with doing so. So feel good win all the way around.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I guess my the stuff that I've said about Segura before, all of which I will stick to. I'm still not convinced about this player, but no, it's good to see him try to at least get something going here in this game, even though it's against the Nationals and their pitching staff and everything they have going on there with kind of a down and out team, a last place team that we expect to be a last place team. But still, it's good. It's good to see him get it, try to start getting something going because he's done literally nothing, as we just alluded to. Hit the ball hard on some occasions, like you just said, kind of gotten snake bitten on some occasions, but not many. It's more so ground balls and stuff like that. But no, it's good to see 2 hits. Anytime you get 2 hits out of Segura, I think that's got to be a plus this year so far. Burdick is going to strike out. That's in his makeup. That's what's going to happen. So for him to get a hit is still good. This is still a player that's learning his way. I will still stick to the fact that he doesn't have anything left to do in minor league baseball. So I hope this guy sticks up. And, he's going to have games like this where he strikes out 3 times, maybe even 4 times. But yeah, that's part of his makeup. It's a big physical player that wants to really impact the baseball. And he does show that when he makes contact, but consistency of that contact is what you want to see permeate as he makes his way here in the major leagues. But the only thing that's going to teach him that is more reps. So want to see this player get reps. He's going to go through strikeouts. You guys can expect that to continue. But man, when he makes contact, the ball flies. So I'm really intrigued by this player. I think he's really good. Definitely want to see him stay with the Marlins, especially now with the injuries, like you said.
Yes, no. Love the power from him, and hopefully he can have a couple of those Soler stat lines. It could be 1 for 4, 1 for 5, but that one could start leaving the yard and delivering some wins for the Marlins. But let's talk, I guess, the biggest young for the club last week. Of course, the big news, and it seems like less than a week ago when we're all riding completely high on the Marlins' fortunes, had only positive things to focus on. with the arrival of Eury Perez to the majors, and he had his big debut on Friday night. The the official line here: 4.2 innings pitched, 4 hits, 2 earned runs, just on 2, gave up 2 solo homers, 7 strikeouts, and 88 pitches, which is probably nearly 20 pitches more than I honestly expected him to throw in that game. I wasn't sure how conservative they'd go, but I think that was the most exciting stat to me, that they let him throw, at least in terms of the success of the 2023 Miami Marlins. The most exciting stat was that they let him throw 88 pitches. But Alex, what were your thoughts on the debut? And I'll kind of open it up to you. You spent much more time following the prospects. What are your expectations for him to do in 2023?
Yeah, no, encouraging debut, like you said. And what I think you saw is a lot of what he's done in minor league baseball is just be so economical with his pitches because of how good his stuff is. The stuff is that good that he can doesn't, like I said, I put it on Twitter, like that curveball, barely threw that curveball in the zone. I think he threw it in the strike zone like one time, or maybe two. But it induced like swings and misses with that. The swings that he got were like well outside of the strike zone. Like he doesn't even have to challenge with that pitch for that pitch to be so good. The fastball, of course, you can see up to 99, and then he has the curveball, like I said, down to like 76, 77. So there's a velo separation that you love to see in a young player like that he can just slow down the arm speed, slow down the ball. Not even slow down the arm speed, I shouldn't even say, because his arm speed's pretty masked. So he could just really, really grip his pitches the way that he needs to do, release them the way that he needs to do, and mask them so well that hitters don't really know what's coming. So like I said, he doesn't really slow down the arm speed. He really is showing that repeatability that he didn't have very early in his career. Really didn't have that early in his career. That was really my big thing with him when Danny DeVivo first showed him to me. It seemed like he was kind of slowing down the arm speed a little bit on his breaking pitches, especially that curveball. But in this start, man, I really saw that it was masked a lot better, that, he was kind of throwing it with the same effort. But he did throw a lot of high effort pitches. So that's the thing for a young player still learning how to be repeatable. Of course, you can't rely on your fastball. You want to use all your pitches. The pitch that he didn't use in this start, which is why I think he could be even better than what we saw in his last and first major league start as a changeup, really didn't use it. I think he only threw it a few times. But that's a great pitch for Perez. He just didn't need it in the start, and he didn't go to it. He used more slider, curveball, and fastball, which is totally fine. But I like how he mixed up how he was starting pitchers off, too. So it shows that prowess to know that guys are standing on deck watching you. You need to switch it up. So you can't just show fastball or curveball or slider to the same guy, each time through the lineup. You got to switch it up to know that, hey, this guy's standing on deck watching me. If I throw my last pitch to the last guy is going to be a slider. If I show that slider down the middle to try to get ahead in the count for strike one to my next guy, he's going to sit on it and try to hammer the ball. So he didn't really do that. What I was really looking at when I was looking through his pitches is that he kind of switched it up. Last pitch to the last guy was not the same pitch to the next guy on the line. So that's really good to see that he has that IQ to switch it up and use all of his pitches in any count for strikes. So that's a great makeup for a starting pitcher to have. We've seen him have it in minor league baseball. He has it now in Major League Baseball. And man, like I said, this guy's going to get even better when he starts to incorporate that changeup. He didn't have it in his last start. Hopefully he has it here. In a couple days that he starts. Hopefully he has more control of the changeup and he's more confident in that pitch. That's the next step I've been looking for from Eury, is to see that, he's throwing that changeup and stays confident in that and has that pitch back against these major league hitters. And if he has that, he's going to be even better, man. But yeah, that is what I would say for him, is use the changeup more in his next start is the next step I want to see. And really just go longer into games. But I know the Marlins are being super careful. I totally want him to get over this 80 pitch mark. I know he went like 88, I think, right? So that's a good step in the right direction because he's barely ever thrown 90. So I think only on a couple of occasions he's thrown 90 pitches. So maybe the Marlins will let him get off of this 80, 85, 88 pitch limit and go 90, 100 pitches and maybe stick up with the Marlins here we're all anticipating that, man, this is a guy that's going to make a couple starts, and when Trevor's back, he's going to go back. That may very well still happen. But, man, while he's here, like, give him the best experience that you can and let him go a full 100 or full 95, 96 as long as he's succeeding. That's kind of what I want to see going forward is more pitches and the incorporation of the changeup that we didn't see last start. But, man, this was a good first impression, and I think he showed Marlins fans and you and media members and everybody else exactly what you can expect from this pitcher who's still just so young. So really, really encouraging first step for Perez. Encouraged to see what he does in the start against the Nationals against a much weaker lineup, so maybe that'll help him out as well. But we'll see what happens in his next start.
Yeah, definitely excited to see the way his stuff is playing, and this has kind of been it's a mixed bag year for how a lot of just the rookie pitchers across baseball, that have been called up have looked. Either Brandon Pfaadt came up, a couple of weeks ago, kind of knocked around. Grayson Rodriguez, it's been an up and down season, and Perez seems to just his stuff is playing, and it's just amazing still at just such a young age, barely over 20, that he's not legally drinking this year of his teammates, and what his stuff looked like after one start looks great. One thing I guess I would ask, just in terms of what we should think of workload, like I threw it up on the screen there, it looks like his previous season high was just 78 innings pitched, and he's already thrown 35 this season. And so how do you think they're managed that? As we're going to do some like 6-man rotation stuff, take advantage of off days down the stretch? Do you just think that they'd shut him down at some point, down the season?
Yeah, so it's a great question, but he had the injury late last year. It turned out it was just simple arm fatigue. Wasn't necessarily anything that required any like huge surgery or anything like that. So he was okay after that. But yeah, like you said, he's only ever thrown a season high of 78, and the Marlins have been really stringent on that, like really stringent on really protecting this pitcher at such a young age. But there's going to come a point, and maybe this is that point, where you got to get him over that hump and let him go, let the guy ride. You know what I mean? So is the major leagues the right place to do that? My opinion would be no. My opinion would be, and what others have said, is that, unless this guy comes up and does something spectacular, like, throws a friggin' no-hitter or strikes out 10 in every start that he has, my opinion would be that he would go back and they would continue to protect him in the minor leagues, because there's still so much time. But man, if this guy comes out and impresses even more than he did in his last start, it's going to be hard to make that call if you're Kim and the rest of this front office, because this is the guy that people want to see, and this is somebody that you want to see throw. That is the future of your organization. So it's going to be a tough call to make if he continues to impress. But my overall opinion would be that, yeah, you're right. I don't think you can really expect this player to get pushed all the way up to like 125 innings just yet. 100 would be a good step for him. I would totally say that that's absolutely possible. But the other thing is, when you look at innings count, is that this guy completes innings and has completed innings in minor league baseball on just like minimal amount of pitches. So I don't really think it's much about innings count as much as it is about his pitch count and really looking at his pitch count per start, which is exactly what the Marlins have done with him, with 80 pitches, 88 in this last start that you saw. So you want to see natural progression. You want to see also a gradual progression. You don't just want to push him all of a sudden, because then you're risking it. So there's going to be a gradual progression with this player. Does that happen in minor league baseball or major league baseball? I would say it should happen in minor league baseball, and I think that's probably what will happen, in my opinion. That's just an opinion. We'll see what the Marlins decide to do. But if this guy continues to impress, it's going to be hard to send him down.
Yeah, so I mean, hopefully, I'd say hopefully we see it at the major league level, because I think the way we see that is if the team is winning and they're still in it, then that's what makes it difficult. If the Marlins get pulled down by all the other Marlins news in the last few days, and that knocks them out of it, then yeah, I would agree that absolutely they'll bump him back down, probably as soon as Trevor comes back, or as soon as they could find another arm to bring up. Hopefully Trevor comes back. And because that's the thing, as exciting as this is right now, they've got a rotation with an arm like Luzardo, Sandy on there, Cabrera when he's on, and just so much talent. You'd love to see Perez slide in to be a part of it, but unfortunately, all that other Marlins news did happen, and this just your injuries going on with the club right now. So many injuries. Puck gone, Sanchez gone, Avi still gone, Jazz gone, Trevor still gone, Cueto, was he ever even really here? It's part of the team. It's a lot, a lot of blows to the body in a short span of time. And I guess the question is, how are they going to navigate this? And since we have our, since we have you as our prospect and kind of your rookie expert, here, let's kind of open up to who do you think. What rookies do you think will help the 2023 Marlins get through this? Who do you think are the names other than Eury Perez that we're going to be looking at to keep this team afloat if they're going to do that?
Yeah, no. First of all, I think this is unfortunate for Jazz. Of course, we want to see the organizational player, the player that you look at when you think about the Marlins. You think about Jazz Chisholm, like that's the guy you think about, especially now with current fans that are not a fan of this team. You think about Jazz the Marlin, he's on the cover of a video game, and he's all over the place, and for good reason. He has a great personality. He's a great dude. Now he's gone for 4 to 6 weeks, as you can see with this turf toe issue that he had in the outfield, which I will still say didn't need to happen if they didn't put this player in the outfield. I mean, that's another conversation. But to answer your question, I still have reservations about that. So that's the only reason I mentioned it.
No, there's valid reservations.
Yeah, no, exactly. I don't think he's looked terrible in the outfield. I think he's learning, but man, there's so much that goes into that with a guy that's been injured before. Now he has a different injury from the back and the knee. Now he has a toe. Anyways, this was the main thing when he got put in center field is like, you don't want to see him get hurt. This is, you just don't want to see that. Is it necessary to put him there if you think he's going to get hurt? And of course the toe is, it goes into it. He doesn't know how to feel for the wall very well. And it happens, and you just hate it. And you hate it for the guy and you hate it for the team. But, it's hard to say that, they did it to themselves, but the risk that they took, this was, at some point maybe expected. So who do you go to now that this has happened? I love this opportunity for Xavier Edwards. Xavier Edwards is the guy who came to this team from Tampa, and man, this guy I think could be pretty good. Doesn't have much power, but man, he showed well in his first stint with the Marlins. He's been very good in AAA. It's a base hit guy over everything, but he has great speed. He plays in the infield and the outfield, and I think this is his opportunity to really make an impression because I think he's going to be playing a lot. I think you're going to see this guy play. I don't think he's here to just sit on the bench and be an extra guy. I think he's going to play. So this is a guy that I think is in a good spot in his career to really start to make an impression, either on the infield and the outfield. Wherever they need him, he can fill in and just be that on-base guy, which is exactly what they targeted in him and other players in the offseason. So I like this player. I think he's going to be good. So that would be a main contributor, especially while Jazz is out. I think this guy's going to be a main contributor. Other guys to point to, especially when you talk about outfield, now you got Sanchez out and you got other guys out as well. Not that this guy is the best defensive center fielder of all time. He has a great arm, but his routes are not good. But Eury Encarnacion is another guy who I could see really get that full shot. This guy's gotten a couple shots already, but just in brief stints. Fantastic power, hits to all fields. He's hit so many opposite field home runs, which that was my main reservation with him when he first started to make his name, was his ability to hit to all fields. I asked Don Mattingly about it a couple of years ago, and he was like, yeah, man, this guy just needs to, he has all the power in the world. He just needs to start to hit to all fields. And he's really started to do that here, especially this season with Jacksonville. So I think this is a player you're going to see come up at some point and contribute to the Marlins. Other guys to point to, Mangum is a guy that came in who's very interesting because he has a very high BABIP, but he doesn't hit a lot of ground balls.
I think that's what I'm most excited about.
So Mangum is a guy. Yeah, you point to him and you're like, okay, this is the guy that came in this year. He has a really, really high BABIP. I think his BABIP's still over like 450 or 460. I have to look at it to tell you. But yeah, he has a really, really high BABIP. But the thing that goes into that is that he doesn't really hit ground balls. So is it sustainable? Probably not to the fact that he's doing right now. But if it comes down even a little bit and he continues to at least find some gaps, it's a player that could still make some noise. So he's interesting. And he plays decent outfield too. So that's another outfielder to point to. I still like Johnston. He's kind of struggling right now, but he's a guy who's older in minor league baseball right now. He could get it going at any time. He's playing on a winning team with Pensacola. So yeah, there's him. I know this guy's also injured right now, but it's another guy that could come up, if he comes back from his injury and starts to succeed again, especially with what the Marlins have going on at catcher. This is another guy you could see come up. He also plays in the outfield. This is Paul McIntosh. So I'm intrigued by him as well. So there's a lot of guys down there that you can point to on the positional side that are maybe not these superstar prospects, superstar players, but usable guys, and guys that are starting to show that, hey, if you're going to call Eury up from Double A, why not me? Especially if you held me back in Double A to start the year. So no, I have a couple of guys in mind. Mangum's obviously in Triple A, but there's guys in Double A as well that you can point to and say, hey, this guy may get a shot this year. Maybe late in the year we see somebody like Victor Mesa Jr. He's been fantastic. So maybe if the Marlins are completely out of it, he gets a shot. But to keep the Marlins in it, I will stick to those names that I said on the positional side of the ball. There's other pitchers. We'll get to that maybe in a minute. But no, positional side of the ball, it's there's a couple of guys. But yeah, I would say Burdick staying up, Edwards, Mangum. There's a couple of guys, Encarnacion. There's a couple of guys that we just talked about at the AAA level that could definitely contribute to a winning team, if they need to. So it's just going to see what happens with injuries. See what happens, what they do outside of the organization, which is also possible. But they have some guys within the organization that can contribute at any time.
Oh, great. And yeah, so I mentioned Mangum, and I'll admit this is mostly because he friended me on Twitter. But still, the season he's putting up, that just seems like one of those bats that maybe just could, even if it's just say one big hot streak, in a debut that he could see plug into the lineup and catch fire. But Burdick is making some solid contact, like you said, when he connects. I'm liking him much more in this cup of coffee so far than we did in his last time already. So hopefully he can do something with that opportunity. It's really a big moment for whoever does get put in that position first. If Jazz is gone for 4 to 6 weeks, we don't obviously still waiting for him to do baseball activities. Jesus just pulled that hamstring, so there's a really big window for certainly one, if not two, players to really kind of take their first big opportunity and really run with it. You mentioned we'd get to pitching. That was another thing I had down to ask you. If the Marlins' luck continues as it is, basically, who would be the next? Who would be the next pitcher called up in a let's get some wins, not like filling in for a spot start, so not like when are we going to see Devin Smeltzer again, kind of thing. But the next arm that would be come up in a let's win games now, bring up an exciting talent. Who's the next pitcher on deck other than Trevor Rogers? We should be coming back.
Sure, yeah. So when Eury got called, I thought this guy's name would get called before Eury's, but this guy was fantastic. This is the main guy that I can point to. He's an older guy. I think he's like 26. But, man, this guy says all the right things. I had him on my show on the podcast. You probably heard it. Anybody who's listening, go listen to that interview. It's fantastic. But Pat Monteverde is the main guy that you look at that could definitely contribute in that kind of role. He's also in Double-A, not in Triple-A. He's in Double-A. So it's not like a Chi-Chi, not like that fill-in guy, Hoeing, even though I love Brian Hoeing. But it's not like that fill-in or back-end bullpen swingman guy. This guy can definitely stick as a starter. He's a back-end guy. Doesn't have real dominating stuff, but keeps the ball on the ground. He's also got some deception to him, even though he's not very tall. So yeah, this guy's good. He's lefty. So I really like this guy as well, as a guy who could contribute at some point this season, as a guy who you look to that's not just that, okay, we're just calling him up to fill in innings kind of guy, like Castano or, whatever it may be, right? So, I like Monteverde a lot to try to come up and contribute to this team at any given point. Some of the younger pitchers that you point to, like Fulton's really struggled, so I wouldn't really say him. Another guy that I can point to is a guy who rehabbed tonight with Jupiter, who looked very good in rehab. Obviously, he's a 26-year-old pitcher playing against 19, 20-year-old, 21-year-old kids, so you can't really make too much of that. But this guy's also good, and I think, once he gets his shot, if he can continue to prove it with Jacksonville, it's another arm you can see is Emmanuel De Jesus. That's another arm that maybe a name that people don't know. It's a guy that came to the Marlins this year, who pitched in spring training, got injured. But it's another arm that you could see come up and take some innings in the rotation, maybe back-end guy. But he looked really good tonight at 8 strikeouts tonight in a rehab start, 5.1 innings. Looked pretty good. So I only mentioned him because he's present of mind. But Monteverde, him, other guys in AAA I don't really see. The only other one that I could probably see in the AA level to come up and contribute is MD Johnson, who's also another older guy, also another back-end guy, more so contact-oriented stuff, less dominating stuff. But again, another guy that could come up and maybe stick in the rotation if he continues to succeed how he is right now in AA. So, yeah, I wouldn't necessarily – it's interesting to say, but I wouldn't necessarily look wholeheartedly at the AAA level, but I would look more towards the AA level. And when De Jesus gets back to AAA, of course, him. But, yeah, no, there's definitely arms down there that can contribute to a winning team. I'm intrigued by some of what I see. I definitely like Monteverde's first month, and he's going to continue it as well. I think he pitches tomorrow, too. So, no, this guy's good. I think he's definitely solid. Definitely an arm that can contribute, come up and stay up kind of guy, and not that just fill-in kind of guy, especially at his age. So there's a couple guys down there, man, that are still solid. Even with Eury gone, that's your main guy. That's your main superstar. They still have arms, man, and they still have guys that can come up and contribute in more of just like a fill-in capacity. So there's a couple guys.
Nice. And I guess on the other side, with rookies, so those are some rookies who could, help if they get, caught up, to the Marlins to help them win games and, keep this thing going. The other side of it, with rookies and prospects are if the Marlins do try to go for outside, help. And this has, kind of been my thing all year. I think this is a season where they really have to try, and try does not need to mean, this is a team that's capable of going to the NLCS or something like that. That's not it's being said. I think this team I think they need to clear that hump of 80 wins. I think they need to, have a winning record. I think with the way this market is right now, every other team in the market has played in a playoff game in 2023. The Marlins need to be seen as moving in that direction, having a winning season, and showing that they're on the right track. Look at the Heat, look at the Panthers. What they were doing is 8 seeds and seasons where they're not even supposed to do it. The Marlins have all the excuses in the world to throw up their hands and cry injuries and punt on this season, but I think they can't. I think they need to win. So I think it's definitely possible that, and it's just for a perception. This isn't even a Kim and a contract year thing, but I think they're going to need to try to do something, and I would not be surprised to see them, make a move. They're like this. The timing for these injuries was kind of my nightmare. Looking at the way this schedule, looks right now during this meaty part of the schedule where you really want to see him take advantage. And I was thinking like a week ago or two, when it was just Cooper out with a illness and Avi out with an injury, that God, I hope they don't just decide that we actually are good enough to make the playoffs with the talent on this roster, and that they were just gonna, or that if they have an injury that they'll just bide their time and not try to take advantage of this soft part of the schedule. And now, so many injuries, I'm still kind of thinking that, well, they can't. So it's either call up these names that you talked about, call up Edwards, which they already did, put Burdick in there. Do they need to call Encarnacion and Mangum and get him in there on the next week? Like, every one of these wins counts. So with that little mini rant I'm thrown out, I guess first off, would you agree on that? Do they need to that they can't, that they need to try everything to be competitive this year? And if so, who are some of the rookies that you think they might, that are still, that are worth something, that would be worth something to another organization in a trade to get some kind of, help in?
Yeah, no, what I would agree with is that they need to show some kind of improvement from last year. That's for sure. Like if you come out and you win another, what did they win last year? 69 games, I think. If you come out and you win another 69 games and you stay status quo, it's going to be pretty rough to try to convince this fan base that, hey, we're doing all we can to win. So, the fan base is huge into this. I mean, that's money off the table if these people don't attend. They're trying to drive attendance. They're trying to do cool things with Flashback Fridays, and they're trying to market this team the right way around Jazz and other guys that you see and Heritage Nights and all this other stuff. You need to try to convince this fan base and make the most of your investment if you're Bruce Sherman. So are you doing that right now? How do you weren't doing it last year. Are you doing it this year? And how do you continue to do it in the future? And how do you continue to drive attention to this baseball team? Is that with Kim Ang? Is it with somebody else? So that's kind of what he has to weigh. So yeah, winning on the field is what matters in South Florida sports. You know that. Anybody who lives here knows that anywhere in South Florida sports, if you win games, hockey, basketball, football, baseball, fans are going to show up. If you're not winning games, they ain't going to come. I mean, it just is what it is. So you're going to be able to find $2 tickets to a Marlins game on a Saturday night. So, I mean, it just is what it is. So, you need to be able to win games. You need to be able to win baseball games, and that's paramount for the Marlins. And I know that they know that. So how do you win baseball games right now is the question. Do you do that in-house or do you go out of house? Like you said, need to swim, can't sink. Exactly right. So you need to continue to swim upstream. You need to continue to show that, hey, we're committed to a winning culture here in Miami. The Wahoos did it. The Wahoos have a great winning culture. They've won like 13 of their last 14 games. How do you bring that here to Miami? Do you call those guys up? It's a great question to make. And they've called some of those guys up already. They're showing that they're ready, which is awesome. But if you go outside of the organization, maybe some of those guys have to go. So it's a balancing act, and that's hard to do. So I would agree with you that they definitely need to do better than last year if they're going to be serious. And if they're really serious about winning games, they have to show at least some kind of step forward. Do they have to win the World Series? No. They have to show a step forward. They can't win it. If they win 69 games or less, it's going to be a rough look, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you if they did go that trade route, and I know it's almost sacrilegious to talk about trades in May because it just seems to be that's just accepted practice. You've got to wait till July to make a deal, and with the playoffs expanded, multiple wild cards now, more teams are in it than have been in years past. This is true last year too, of course, but and other fan bases, other fans of the podcast for other fan bases could make the same argument that the White Sox can't afford to blow it up. They've got to take advantage of the fact that everyone in Chicago sucks, and they need to put their foot in the door. That the Rockies they can't give up. They need to try to capture some attention from the other teams. That the A's suck, and they could. I think the A's could be pounced on for maybe one more trade with these other, rebuilding teams that maybe they're going to try to say that they're in it, right now too. But I kind of feel like they need to pull in, someone, if not by Memorial Day, then certainly by Flag Day. They've got to, go out and bring someone. Yeah. And so if they, it's like, who would be some of those names that I mean, I guess I'll ask it to you two ways. So like, who do you think is the most like attractive name that you would see them moving? That a Marlins team that thinks they can win in 2023, so it wouldn't hurt the 2023 Marlins. Who's the name that would be most valuable to trade? And then I guess who do you be most comfortable trading? So like, who are we not destroying the organization by dealing away?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So you have to deal from a strength, and I still think the strength of this Marlins organization is pitching. Even though we haven't seen some of them for a little while, we haven't seen Jake Eater. Obviously, Myers out until obviously next year. Dax Fulton, he's been pitching but not doing very well in Double-A, but that's okay. He's still a very young kid. But I still think those names are attractive to potential suitors. So Eater, the names that are most attractive, as you said, to other teams are going to be those top end pitching prospects. I would say those younger prospects that are not too terribly far away. So Eater, Fulton, who I don't think is too terribly far away. He needs to really improve, but I don't think with proper seasoning, I don't think he's too terribly far away. And then you have guys that have kind of come on out of nowhere. I mean, obviously you have Khalil Watson, who had his struggles last year, and he is doing really, really well this year. With the Sky Carp in cold weather months, which is very intriguing to a potential suitor. And the Marlins, they have help on the infield. They have guys at AAA. They have guys in the major leagues now that can help, especially if maybe one day they move Jazz back, which I'm hoping against hope that they actually do. You can move Arias to first base, whatever it may be. So they have help on the infield. They also have other guys on the infield that they can move around. I think they have too many shortstops. I think they're going to wind up moving some shortstops around. Nasim Nunez is another guy who's very, very intriguing, who started to come by some power. So I think he's a sell high. If the Marlins like today make a trade, he's a very, very much a sell high because of what he started to do. There's also Victor Mesa Jr., who has had a very, very great start to the year. And you want to kind of try to maximize that investment because you know what it costs to get him and his brother here. So there's that as well. So there's a couple guys that would definitely be those younger players that are going to be suitors for other teams. Watson, maybe Mesa Jr. is starting to make that name for himself, but then again, he's an outfielder. The Marlins don't have a lot of those, so I would want to hold on to Mesa. I'd want to hold on to Mesa and seeing what he's doing. But the names that you would kind of look at, that I would kind of look at, it would take a lot to get these names away from the Marlins. But if they're really serious about bringing back in, at the deadline, maybe a big piece or a big player that's going to push them over that hump. You look to guys like that, like Watson, Fulton, Eater, if he's back healthy. Like you really look at those names and say, this is what the Marlins have to offer. If they're really serious, it would hurt my heart to get rid of those players because I follow these guys every single day. Watson has shown incredible progress. I'm so intrigued. Even amidst an injury this year, he's been so good. Definitely seems like he's more level-headed this year as well. So I really like that player. Mesa Jr. has just continued what he was doing this spring as just like that guy that came out and had some of the best swings in spring and really made an impression, showed it wasn't a fluke. Fulton has had his struggles, but I think he's going to be fine. And then when Eater gets back, man, that guy was better than Meyer when they both got called up to Double-A together. So that guy's definitely still has time on his side and definitely has the reputation. If he can come back and show that he's healthy and at the same point in his career when he left, that's another guy that's going to be really good, man. So those are the guys that I would point to, like those four names. If they're really serious about making a big push, you got to look at those guys.
Nice. One name I guess I would ask about, we've mentioned him earlier in terms of his helping this year. A player I've wondered about is Monteverde, with him coming on. And so I guess just if we give you only two options for Monteverde's career, because of course it's all absolutes, do you think he's more of a sell high, or is he likely to kind of keep this newfound success going? Like when I started reading about this new pitcher I had not heard of before this season doing well, I was like, well, this means two things: either that this is a new pitcher who's going to be great, so that makes someone else tradable, or it makes or it means that Monteverde should be traded the first time they need to make a trade this season if they're adding. Because again, unfortunately, this isn't a franchise that just looking ahead that isn't going to sign all those players two big contracts. It's the economic reality is what it is. So when I hear about a new prospect doing really well, it's like, well, okay, so we can keep someone, but someone else, has to go. So basically, I guess putting it simply, do you think Monteverde is a sell high or a hold for the Marlins?
Man, to answer that question, I would say at the current moment he would be a hold for me, just because he would just be probably a throw into a trade at this point. Even though he's had such a great start, I think he would still be just kind of like a throw in. It's an older guy. He's like 26. It's a lefty arm. He's undersized. He's pitched in cold weather states. And really, what is intriguing to me, so intriguing to me about this player is his backstory. I mean, wasn't highly recruited out of high school, had to go to D3, then go to D2, then finally made it to D1 in his senior year, which was redshirt, and then gets drafted by the Marlins in the 8th round. So caught the Marlins' eye. The Marlins got him on a huge deal. There's literally almost no money invested in this player. So, man, you want to maximize what you got out of that guy. They got him in the 8th round as a guy that they just took a chance on, and he's really, really showing what he can do. And he's always had good minor league numbers, but this year when you see him in Double-A and that's permeating, it's like, wow, now we got to really look at this guy, right? Now we got to take it seriously. So yeah, not that we didn't take him seriously before, but he's always been older for his level. He's still semi-old for his level in Double-A. But when you make the Double-A jump and you're just continuing to succeed with the stuff that he has, it's just so good, man. I really like that player. But yeah, in terms of trade talks for this player, it would be more of a sell low. It would be more of a guy that I would just hold on to, see what he does, maybe call him up to be that back end guy. Definitely never going to be an ace, not going to be a Eury Perez or not even Fulton or Eater. But this is a guy that could come up and definitely be, or Sandy for that matter, but definitely a guy, definitely not that ceiling in this player, but definitely a guy that could come up and just, give you some quality innings and potentially pitch at the back end of a rotation for a long time. So you need guys like that. So yeah, I like Monteverde, man. But in terms of a trade, I think right now at this point in his career, he wouldn't have that much value to where it would just be like, okay, yeah, just get rid of him, especially, at this point. He's not going to bring back, I don't think, too terribly much, even with the success that he's had. He'd be more of kind of like a throw-in kind of guy. But yeah, no, you're right. It's kind of come on out of nowhere, kind of really quickly made a name for himself. And it's good to see, man. I love players like that. I love these kind of dark horse stories that are kind of out of nowhere guys. When I first started covering the Marlins minor leagues, that's all the Marlins had was dark horse stories. Guys that would come up and just come out of nowhere. They didn't really have a star prospect unless you want to point to Kolek or Avery Romero or somebody like that.
Yep.
But yeah, no, this guy is solid. Just faces challenge so well. Speaks well, says the right things, does the right things, makes the most of his resources, including coaching. And that's the kind of player that the Marlins want in their organization. So I wouldn't get rid of this guy. I like him.
Okay, so hold him and hope he becomes Tom Kohler.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Sure.
All right. It's throwing out a comp. Okay. All right. Well, let's all right. So shifting away from news and analysis, game time here on Marlins After Dark. So now trying to get back into my regular format. Now some behind the scenes stuff. Now the grades are submitted, and I can focus on my part-time projects on here. So back to regular weekly episodes and regular guests. And so I've been doing Jeff or Chef as a game, but don't have those notes with me. So we're going to open this up to. I think we're going to have you spin the wheel for a year in Marlins history, and we're gonna do some. We can do this two ways since I haven't done this. So pick a year. We could either have you just see if you can guess the leader in like the major stat counting categories, or I can give you two options and ask you to guess which one of them has it.
Yeah, I like the two options category because there's too many names on my mind, especially when you cover over 300 guys in minor league baseball. I like the multiple options choice so that I don't make too terribly a fool of myself on this. Plus, I don't have the best memory anymore, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see how I do.
All right, so throw the wheel up here and let's spin then. See where we end up. Fun sound for anyone listening just to the audio of this, but see where we land. Okay, 2002.
Ooh. Okay, it's gonna be a rough one, but let's go.
All right. Let's see. All right, that's off the screen. Okay, so let me pull up 2002 Marlins. All right, so let's see how you do here. This has been when we did Jeff or Chef, this has been a rough game, but so I have the graphics for that. So when you win, and here when you get the right answer, and I'm sure you'll do better than you think, we'll still throw up the Jeff or Chef art. So if you get a question right, you'll see a thumbs up from Jeff. And we'll say if you get it wrong, then we'll just say Gary Sheffield is wrong for this, and we'll see a Gary Sheffield highlight. But okay, 2002 Marlins. Let's see. Okay, home run leader for the two had more home runs for the 2002 Miami Marlins, Derek Lee or Mike Lowell?
I'm going to say Derek Lee for this one.
All right, and Derek Lee is correct there. Derek Lee had 27 that year. Mike Lowell had 24. Okay, what else can we do? What about stolen bases? And for stolen bases, I will ask. So we won't go with the obvious on here. So, stolen bases. Who had more stolen bases, Derek Lee or Preston Wilson?
It's got to be Preston. He was a speed demon, man. We'll go with Preston Wilson.
All right, and that is correct. It was Preston Wilson, but by one. Preston Wilson had 20 stolen bases. Derek Lee had 19. For that team. So D. Lee making it close. Did a little more running there right before.
He was so good. Total underrated.
He was. Loved watching that guy.
Yeah.
Okay. RBIs. Let's see. Okay, more RBIs for the 2002 Marlins. Preston Wilson or Cliff Floyd?
Ooh, this is where I may lose it, but Floyd played deeper down in the lineup, I think, more often. So I'll go Cliff Floyd for this one. Maybe wrong.
Okay, and
unfortunately,
incorrect. That was Preston Wilson. This is you're right about the lineup spot. Remember, Preston played most of that season with the Marlins. Cliff Floyd was traded midway.
That's right, he got traded. That's right. Yeah, you're right. Wow.
That boatload of expos that ended up helping the next season. But so bit of a trick there. But Wilson had 65 and 141 games, which wasn't that awesome. And Cliff Floyd had 57 RBI in 84 games.
Still made it close. Yeah,
which was about what you'd expect from Clifford Floyd. Okay, let's shift to pitching stats. Okay, innings pitch leader for the 2002 Miami Marlins. AJ Burnett or Brad Penny?
Who made it deeper into games? I'll say Burnett on this one.
Definitely Burnett. Burnett by a lot. That was 204 innings pitched that year. Brad Penny just had 129. And that was with five more starts for Burnett. So, but still, yeah, Burnett made it deeper. You're right. Okay, doing good. So last one there. And trying to think if I've had someone win this before. I do 5 questions on this. So you're doing great. We'll do saves. Who had more saves for the 2002 Miami Marlins? Vladimir Nunez or Braden Looper?
Man, this is a hard one.
I usually try to make the last one a little.
Yeah, that's a hard one. I'm going to go with my boy Looper, though. Let's go Braden Looper for this one.
And
oh man, it was Nunez. Wow. All
incorrect. It was Nunez. Right. Nunez is one good year. 20 saves.
Yeah.
For the 2002 Marlins. I guess Looper would start picking up more saves and racking up the innings under Trader Jack McKeon the following season.
Fair enough.
Forward, but all right. And then last thing we'll do tonight. So one other thing had been doing before taking a brief hiatus is doing in honor of the 30th season, kind of a top 30 countdown of Marlins players. And I'm going for number 26 today. I have his previous names. I think we did Levon, we did Pudge, because I figured the fans would prosecute me if I did not have them on the list. And so kind of combine what their contributions were to the club based on their war in Marlins uniforms. Yes, not what they did as a Marlin. Kind of bonus points about my formula if they won a championship, were part of a winning team. So we got them. We had Al Leiter was the last name we did at 27, and at 26 I have Miguel Rojas. There's considering the 26th best Marlin by my deep dive analytic rankings that I put together. Had a 12 WAR there, which would, if just by WAR alone, would actually put him inside the top 20 for Marlins players on this list. But obviously, it was only on that one winning team in 2020. Asterisk galore with that. But your thoughts on does he belong in a list of the top 30 Marlins of all time? And do you think that's too high, too low? Thoughts on Mickey Rowe's time with the Marlins?
No, yeah, I think this is a fair ranking. Came over from Los Angeles in kind of a highly heralded trade. Marlins sent back a bunch of prospects. So no, I think this is definitely a good trade. Marlins sent back a bunch of pieces, I should say, not prospects. But yeah, no, I think this is definitely a good spot for Miggy. Kind of the ringleader of the 2020 season that the Marlins made the playoffs. For the first time in however long it was. What was it, 27 years or whatever it was that the Marlins made the playoffs, and Miggy was kind of right behind that. He was kind of leading that team the whole way. Even though the Marlins didn't go too terribly far in that playoffs in the playoffs that year, they think won one series and then lost. But yeah,
beat the Cubs and Starling's wrist, unfortunately, and
everything
and played the Braves.
Yeah, I had to play Atlanta, of course, and you know how that goes. But yeah, no, you're right. This is a good spot for Miggy. Definitely meant a lot to this team on and off the field for a long time. One of my favorite stories of him is, and I wrote an article on the whole thing, is that he was able to kind of help prospects as well in camp and kind of make his influence known up and down the organization, even if he wasn't with guys every day. So yeah, no, definitely a guy that was a proven leader, did a great job for this team in a lot of different ways. Had a great 2021 season last year. It was okay. He had some injuries there as well with the tooth thing that happened and the finger and everything else that he went through. He had some injuries happen. Then there was everything with the clubhouse that we talked about many, many times. Now he's not here anymore. But overall, this guy's overall legacy with the organization is very, very positive, very, very good. Definitely think he belongs on this list. I think this is a good spot for Miggy Rowe. Definitely a fan favorite and a guy that belongs on this list. And I think this is a good spot. So I think it's a good job here.
Nice. Yeah, I think this is where he settles in. You mentioned the trade, and looking back on it, it's funny. He was probably seemed like the third most consequential piece of that package. I think Andrew Heaney was the frontliner, for that one, but it was the D Gordon trade, it was the Dan Herron trade, I believe, and then just Miguel Rojas. Okay, great. Utility infielder. This will be awesome, and just ended up being such a huge piece. Much more contributive than D ultimately ended up being. There, and a Gold Glove caliber defense from him as well. D ended up winning a Gold Glove. Miguel Rojas did not, unfortunately, but I think we know who the better defender was during their time here. And you hit it with leadership though. That's the kind of thing that jumps out for him. There's probably not a thing that he did on the field that you would point to and be like, oh, okay, that was the best that we ever saw from someone in a Marlins uniform. But what he possibly did do better than anyone in a Marlins uniform was that wanting to be here, that you got, from day one, buying into the rebuild, helping out other, players, like you said, kind of at least on camera, at least, saying, all the right things and doing all the right things, and just being someone that fans really embrace. So
just a vocal leadership, like I said, and being able to lead a team back to the playoffs after, what was it? How many years was it?
17.
It was 17. I said 27 because I'm an idiot. But yeah, 17 years.
Oh, it felt like 27, to be fair.
So yeah, I exaggerated. So my bad. But yeah, 17 years, they didn't make the playoffs. And this guy was kind of the ringleader behind the reason why they did that. And it was such a big moment. And he was right there behind it, even though he was out part of the year because he was sick. His family was sick. Like, things happen. It was a very, very, and all of us who watched baseball at that time can tell you, and you guys know that it was a very uncertain time, and he kind of gave some certainty to this team that, hey, you guys can still win even amidst everything that's going on. And we know, of course, what Michael Hill did, and what Donnie did, but Miggy was right there in the dugout like pretty much the whole time. So there's definitely something to be said for that and his leadership skills. Even though it's not like the star player, he's not like the best player on the team. It's a guy that's going to lead the team to wins and create that winning culture, and I think he did that for a lot of his tenure here in Miami. So this is a good spot for Miggy. I like this. 2020 alone, and then you point to 2021 as well, where he was really good. Gold Glove finalist, like all that stuff that goes into it. It's a good spot for Miggy. I agree with this. I like it.
All right, well, good stuff. Okay, so last thing, anything you want to promote before we wrap? Anything coming up for you that fans should look for? You can follow Alex, of course, at Marlins Minors on Twitter.
No, not really. Just our day-to-day, cover prospects every day on my channel. I join the Fish Stripes guys pretty regularly. as well on their programming. So that's always fun. So follow those guys as well. Me and Danny will have a top 100 update coming pretty soon. We do a top 100 prospects. So if you guys really like digging into the lower levels and deeper levels of the Marlins minor league system at all levels, you'll like that. But yeah, that's pretty much what I got. It's always a pleasure to talk Marlins or baseball or anything with you, Sean. I appreciate you having me on. Yeah, we'll see what this team does the rest of the year and see if they can do more than they did last year. That's definitely the hope. It looks good right now, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, likewise. Love talking with you as well. Stuff coming up for me. I'll start churning out more content at Call to the Pen. It's where I publish my writing, and of course you can follow me here on Twitter for next week's episode of Marlins After Dark. So go Heat, go Panthers, and of course go Marlins.